Bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Muchas gracias por el interés que habéis manifestado por este seminario en el que vamos a abordar el futuro impacto de la opinión final del SCCS sobre el dióxido de titanio en productos por inhalación. Como sabéis, se clasificó como CLP el dióxido de titanio como CMR2 por inhalación y posteriormente el SCCS ha publicado una opinión sobre la seguridad del dióxido de titanio, del cual se prevén consecuencias y limitaciones en la regulación cosmética en los próximos meses. Y en este seminario queremos debatir la situación, dado que hemos visto que la propia opinión lanzaba toda una serie de dudas y quedaban muchos puntos por aclarar. Aunque estamos hablando de futura regulación y, por lo tanto, hoy en día no tendremos las respuestas al 100%, agradecemos mucho a nuestros ponentes haber aceptado en este punto poder estar aquí hoy para comentarlo, debatirlo y poder entre todos pues, formarnos una idea de por dónde pueden ir las consecuencias para nuestra industria. Sin más, vamos a empezar con la primera parte. Vamos a tener 3 bloques. Un primer bloque regulatorio. Las preguntas de este bloque las haremos al final del seminario. Ahora mismo presentaré a Meritxell, que nos va a hablar del equipo de Croda que va a participar en esta parte. Luego tendremos una parte más ligada con lo que es la evaluación de seguridad de productos de inhalación, que son los que realmente están directamente implicados con esta opinión. Y finalmente, muy importante también, cómo se afecta la medición del tamaño de partícula, que es una causa directa de la evaluación de seguridad de estos productos. Tanto de la parte regulatoria como de la parte de medición haremos las preguntas al final, y en el caso de la parte de evaluación de seguridad sí que por un tema de organización agradecemos mucho a la ponente poder estar aquí hoy, pero se tiene que marchar y por lo tanto esas preguntas deberemos hacerlas cuando acabe ella su presentación. Sin más dilación, voy a dar pie a Meritxell Rulo, que nos va a introducir al equipo de Croda, y aunque todos la conocéis, voy a hacer una breve presentación de ella porque siempre se descubren cosas interesantes. Meritxell es Country Sales Manager Personal Care de Croda Ibérica y Business Development and Digital Coordinator, especializada en Marketing y Sales Export en Personal Care, con más de 14 años de experiencia en Croda, y ahora actualmente pues es Country Sales Manager de Personal Care para España y Portugal, y Business Development y Digital Coordinator también para España y Portugal, para toda el área de negocio de Croda. Es miembro de la Sociedad Española de Químicos y este año flamante nuevo miembro de la Junta. Y también es profesora asociada de máster de la industria cosmética de la UPV en filtros inorgánicos. Así que, Meritxell, todo tuyo.
Muchas gracias, Isabel. Y ahora permitirme que, bueno, voy a introducir a mis colegas en inglés. Como sabéis, somos una empresa global y primero de todo quería deciros que Croda is very happy to participate in this round table as the expert in titanium dioxide. This is the first thing that we wanted to share with you. And secondly, I'm very proud of introducing to you also my colleagues. I think that we have here the best contacts we have in Croda to talk about this topic. So please don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions, because I'm sure that we could answer you and to clarify any doubt that you have. And so you will see with their presentation. So I wanted to introduce to you to Clare Liptrot. She is the Global Product Safety and Regulatory Affairs Manager, so in Croda, and Helene Hine, who is the Marketing Manager Beauty Effects in Croda Europe. So they have been working in Croda for several years, and I said they are the experts to talk about this topic for sure in Croda. So we prepared a presentation. So Helen and Claire prepare a presentation, I want to say. And in this presentation, because as I said, we are a global company, so they collect all the questions that we have from all of our customers globally. So the typical questions that we are facing with our visits and on our video calls, more than visits, face-to-face with our customers. And because we think that, okay, with this responding and answering these questions, so maybe we could clarify a little bit the topic that we are here to talk about, that is this update on the titanium dioxide reclassification and the future regulatory perspective. But as Isabel said, if we it's not enough answering with this presentation, so please write the questions in the box and we will reply at the end for sure. And if we don't have time, we will reply if it's necessary by email. So don't hesitate about that. So so you can start, Helen, with the presentation, and here you have the picture of the two experts in the next slide. Yes, so here you have Clare Liptrot, as I said, she's the regulatory expert, and Helene Hine, she's the marketing expert for titanium dioxide in Croda 2. So as I said, so we prepared this presentation according to some questions, and the first one, of course, is I think that is the first question that we face with our customers. So will I still be able to use titanium dioxide? This is the first question that we have when we have a visit with our customers. So Helen, can you reply that?
Yes. So the easy answer to this question is yes, you will still be able to use titanium dioxide. This is a reclassification of titanium dioxide, and the primary impact is to raw material labelling in the supply chain. And also it's important to know that this only applies to titanium dioxide in powder form or in formats that can be inhaled. Now, there are implications for inhalable formats of formulations, and we will explain these in further detail later. But the easy answer to this question is yes, you can continue to use titanium dioxide in personal care.
Thank you, because I think that this is the first question that all of us we have in our mind, no?
Yeah.
And the second one, okay, so then can you explain what the reclassification is all about? Just before answering these questions, Helen, so we try to speak in English. My English is not very well, but of course, Helen and Claire English is much better than my English. But if we speak too fast or it's difficult to understand us, so please let us know, and then we can translate in Spanish if it's necessary, or we can talk a little bit slower if it's necessary. Okay. But as I said, so can you explain what the reclassification is all about?
I'm going to let Claire answer this question, being our regulatory expert.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. OK, so back in 2010, industry submitted the first EU REACH dossier for titanium dioxide, and that was submitted to the European Chemicals Association, ECHA. Now, based on the scientific data in the dossier, industry concluded that titanium dioxide was non-hazardous to human health and the environment. But then, as you will be aware, like many member states review submitted REACH dossiers, and in 2018, the French authorities, in particular ANSES, began to review the data submitted by manufacturers of Tio2. Following review of the dossier, ANSES disagreed with the classification that industry had given to titanium dioxide. They concluded that titanium dioxide should be classified as a category 1B carcinogen. And it was at this point that industry started lobbying and working together to fight this recommendation. So then the Risk Assessment Committee, or RAC, who are part of the European Chemicals Agency, reviewed the report from ANSES, and they reviewed all the toxicological data regarding safety and human health, and in particular anything relating to carcinogenicity. They found that the data in the dossier was not new. This data has been around for many, many years and has been part of risk assessments for titanium dioxide in the US for many years. Following the Risk Assessment Committee review, on the 18th of February 2020, legislation was published, and this legislation states that TiO2 in a powder form would be classified as a category 2 carcinogen by inhalation only. So that means it doesn't apply to other routes of exposure such as dermal or oral exposure. It applies to inhalation only. And also it was quite specific in that it only applies to powders that have more than 1% of particles with an aerodynamic diameter of less than 10 micrometers. And this legislation comes into force on the 1st of October this year, 2021.
Thank you, Claire. I think that it helps us also to understand what's the historical, the chronology of the facts before going to this point. Okay, that it doesn't appear because nothing. So there is like some facts that explain why we are now at this point. And so the next question is this specific to cosmetic or does it apply to all industries? I think that also it's important to understand that.
Yeah. This is not specific to cosmetics, so the labelling applies to other industrial businesses such as paints and home care, where they classify their products in accordance with GHS, and GHS, or CLP as it is, the labelling in EU, is on the back of pack. So personal care consumer formulations are not hazard labelled. As we know, we have risk assessments, we do a cosmetic safety assessment on formulations, and so anything classified as a category 2 carcinogen is allowed to be used in cosmetic formulations as long as we have a positive SCCS opinion. That means the SCCS conclude that they are safe for use in cosmetic applications. So we do currently have a positive SCCS opinion for titanium dioxide. In January 2020, Croda, along with other ingredient suppliers and formulators, created and submitted a new SCCS dossier that looked particularly specifically at inhalation. And this was finalised and published on the 6th of October 2020. So that's the latest opinion that everybody's seen and aware of. So following the SCCS opinion, it's common for the conclusions to then be put into law and put into the cosmetic regulations. So as a result of the SCCS opinion, titanium dioxide will be added to Annex 3 of the European Cosmetic Regulations. This legislation is currently draft and it's been submitted to the World Trade Organization for review. I can send around the links to this for people to go and look at. Currently, the draft proposal is in English only because it's with the World Trade Organization. But the planned publication date is Q2 2021, and the entry into force will be 20 days after the publication of the legislation. So, as we know, TiO2 is used as a colorant and as a UV filter, as well as many other uses, and so titanium dioxide will still be listed on Annex 4 for colorants and Annex 6 for UV filters, as it's always been. That's not going to change. So what does the draft restriction say? Well, currently it says that titanium dioxide in powder form containing 1% or more of particles with an aerodynamic diameter of 10 micrometers will be restricted in personal care products. So what that actually means is if you have a titanium dioxide containing powder or in powder form that's as a category 2 carcinogen by inhalation according to CLP, then you have to have a look at Annex 3 of the regulations, of the cosmetic regulations. So what will be restricted? What does Annex 3 say? It says that the restricted applications will be face products in powder form, where titanium dioxide will be restricted to 25% inclusion. Hair products in aerosol dispensers will be restricted to 1.4% for consumer use and 1.1% for professional use only. Now, you will notice that there's a little asterisk against the face products and the hair products when we're talking about the TiO2 that's restricted. And this is because there's a little note in the legislation that says titanium dioxide is only allowed if it's pigmentary, anatase and surface treated. For all of the products that aren't mentioned, so everything bar face powders and hair products, titanium dioxide is not to be used in any applications that may give rise to inhalation exposure by the end user. So this is exactly what we have for nano titanium dioxide today when used as a UV filter. We already have this restriction where we can't use it in applications where consumers' lungs are exposed. So all it's doing is extending that restriction to non-nano TiO2 basically, and colorant, and TiO2 used as a colorant. So in summary, if your TiO2 ingredient is classified as a carcinogen by inhalation, then you have to look at Annex 3 of the cosmetics regulations. If your TiO2 ingredient is non-hazardous as supplied, then Annex 3 does not apply to your products.
Okay, thank you for that, Claire. I think that it's important also to understand, okay, that we can have this information because, okay, we have an active participation in the SCCS, so we participate with these regulatory bodies, we could say, and then so we know what is the next step, and we know what is the next update in this kind of topics. But something that you just started to explain, okay, but does this apply to nano and non-nano titanium dioxide? So you explain a little bit, but you can go a little bit further.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I jumped the gun on this one. Yeah, so use of nano titanium dioxide as a UV filter is already restricted by the European Commission in applications where it can be inhaled by the consumers, so in sprays, aerosols, etc. So all we're doing is taking that restriction and extending it to all particle sizes, so whether it's nano or non-nano UV filters, and also we're taking it beyond UV filters to colorants and other uses as well. So I think at this point it's probably important to note that the classification as a category 2 carcinogen by inhalation applies only to powder TiO2. So where you have titanium dioxide available in a dispersion, this will not be classified as a carcinogen. It will have a non-hazardous label on pack, and so the restrictions listed in the cosmetic regulations will not apply to those.
Thank you, Claire. And I think that, okay, this is the next question. So what about the inhalable formulations containing this titanium dioxide? Okay, what we need to do here? I don't know if Claire or if Helen can reply that.
Yeah, so this classification, as we've said, is related to inhalation only. So therefore, it's not surprising that hair products in an aerosol format have been restricted under the cosmetic regulations. For other types of sprays and for products other than hair products and face powders, then it's highly, whether or not there's exposure to the consumer's lungs is highly dependent on both the formulation and the actuator that's used. So most sprays have really large droplets that aren't of a respirable size, so a lot of them will be greater than 10 microns. And the same applies to other powder formats. So, you know, we need to consider exposure, particle size, and what's generated when we use the product. So is there any chance that the consumer can inhale the powder containing TiO2? You know, we strongly recommend that, you know, if we're considering any powder or spray formats, that a risk assessment is carried out on the finished product to confirm exactly what the consumer is exposed to. That way it'll allow us to determine whether or not there is any exposure to the consumer's lungs, and therefore any restrictions need to be applied.
Thank you, Claire. So for this reason, we think that it's very important also to have today here someone who can talk about, okay, how we can measure these droplets that they are depending on the spray or the how did you say, sorry,
The actuator.
The actuator, yes, thank you. The actuator, so that depends on the actuator in order to be sure, okay, what is the inhalable part of product that could go, could be inhaled by the consumer. But I think that here it's important to understand, okay, how different is this regulation, how is the differentiation between the difference that applies as consumers, so the customers that they are using the product, or the end consumer, so who is using the end product. So how different is that? What change will we see as customers of titanium dioxide? So the customers that they are buying the titanium dioxide in powder or in a dispersion, and they are then formulating the final product that will be maybe a Sanker product.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So at Croda, we've already started the process of implementing the changes that we need to comply with this reclassification. So as customers of Croda, what you will see is that our packaging in future will carry carcinogenic hazard labels for all our titanium dioxide powders. So on the slide here, you can see an example of on the left of what a label will look like. But it's important to note that this will just apply to the powders. Titanium dioxide dispersions are not affected by this. They will instead carry a warning message. And because it's difficult to read, I've zoomed out here so you can read what that says. And that applies because it's a liquid mixture containing greater than 1% of particles of a size of less than 10 micrometers. So the warning says hazardous respirable droplets may be formed when sprayed. Do not breathe, spray or mist. Safety data sheet available on request. So of course, a normal use of our dispersions by our customers, there won't be any exposure to droplet sprays or mist, because they're obviously poured into the vessel, mixed in when using our products. So another point to mention is that nothing has changed about our products at Croda, although these new labels are applied. We're applying them because of the reclassification, and this will be seen by our customers globally, because we manufacture our products in Europe. Everyone globally will see these new labels. Now, some suppliers who operate outside of Europe, obviously a lot of titanium dioxide is made in Asia. They will not need to apply these labels because they are not based in Europe, but the classification of the products are still the same. So that's just an important point to note for customers that will see these products globally.
Thank you, Helen. That's very clear. And then I think that, so the next point is that, okay, what change will the end consumer will see? Because it's something that, okay, worries the formulators. Okay, what will happen to the end consumer? They will see any difference in the labeling?
Yeah, so because this impact of change is really around occupational safety and the handling of titanium dioxide in respirable forms, because it relates to inhalation, we obviously are applying this labeling to our packaging. It's important for our industry, and you will see those changes. But consumers themselves will not see any differences because there's no labeling of finished products. Another important point I wanted to mention is that this classification has applied in the US for many years as well, and we've not seen any concerns from consumers there or any change in the market with regards to titanium dioxide in the US. In fact, titanium dioxide is becoming even more popular in the US in recent years. So we don't expect that consumers will see any difference or notice any difference.
No, that's very important, Helen, what you said, because more and more it's more popular, the mineral sunscreens, and people wants to use because they are green and they are safe. So that's very important to understand what will happen having this outcome from the USA. But how can a supplier like Croda help me in this point? So how they can support me?
So, we have a lot of support for our customers. We obviously have a strong expertise in this area, and we have a lot of safety procedures set up within Croda. So in our manufacturing sites, we already have the occupational safety applied in our manufacturing sites, so reducing the risk of exposure of our workers. And that was implemented a few years ago with a new powder handling facility, both at our site at Medición in Spain and in Widnes in the UK. Medición in Spain is where we manufacture the titanium dioxide powder, and Widnes in the UK is where we manufacture our titanium dioxide dispersions. And we make our powders exclusively in-house and convert them into dispersions as well. And we supply both powder and dispersions to customers. So there may be customers who are currently using powder that don't have any safety procedures in place, that are worried about handling something that is now classified by inhalation. So if a customer is not set up to handle powders, we can offer you support in transitioning from a powder to a dispersion format, which obviously does not need any special handling or processing equipment. Just to reiterate, at Croda, we are the world leading supplier of titanium dioxide dispersions, but we also supply a lot of titanium dioxide powder. The Solivale titanium dioxide dispersions contain titanium dioxide powder that we design, develop and manufacture exclusively within Croda, and are made at the site in Medición in Spain.
Thank you, Helen, for this for clarifying that. And I think that's okay. We are just finishing, so this is the last question. So, and I think okay, it's mandatory to ask. So, what happens next for the reclassification of titanium dioxide? What's next?
So I think I'll take this on. I guess there is still a little bit of uncertainty around inhalable formats, mainly because the legislation's still in draft form at the minute. We know it's with the World Trade Organization, but there have been quite a few changes along the way and lots of comments from industry. So, you know, we need to wait and see what comes out in that final draft. As we mentioned before, back in January, we worked with other suppliers and our customers and submitted the new CCS dossier for review. That was finalised on the 6th of October, and now we're just waiting for the regulations in Q2 2021 to see what's changed, if anything, or if the draft is still as it is. It's a wait and see game.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Helen. I think that that's all from our side, Isabel. About I think that we could bring this point, and for sure there are some questions, so we can reply at the end.
Thank you very much to all the team. It's been very dynamic, and this is a very difficult topic, so thank you very much for making it so interesting. And there are questions that we will be replying later. So we go to the next, vamos a ir hacia la siguiente ponencia, realizada por Marta Bascompta. Dejadme que voy al título, Guía para evaluar los riesgos de inhalación en aerosoles. Marta Bascompta, dadme un segundito, que se me ha movido.
¿Veis la presentación?
A ver.
He hecho compartir.
No, no se ve todavía.
¿No se ve?
No, mientras voy presentando a Marta Bascompta. Ella es responsable de gestión de calidad, medio ambiente y reglamentación de la empresa Montana Colors y es licenciada en Ciencias Ambientales por la Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, Ingeniería Química por la Universidad Politécnica de Cataluña, máster en Estudios de Impacto y Auditorías Ambientales por IUSC y máster en Prevención por la Fundación Mutua Universal de las Euros Universidad de Barcelona. Yo por lo menos no lo estoy viendo. Marta,
¿No
muchas
lo
gracias.
ves?
Sabemos que tenías... Yo no lo veo. ¿Lo veis los demás? ¿No? Me dicen que no.
Ostras. A ver.
Marta, muchas gracias mientras vas haciendo. Muchas
No,
gracias por aceptar.
estoy haciendo compartir. Tengo que hacer compartir, ¿no? Sí. ¿No lo veis?
Sí. No.
No, si quieres lo puedo compartir yo, Marta, lo tengo en pantalla aquí.
Sí, pues compártelo, por favor, porque he hecho compartir.
Bueno, mientras Eva comparte, muchísimas gracias, Marta. Además, sabemos que tienes un horario muy limitado hoy, así que muchísimas gracias por hacernos un hueco. Y todo tuyo.
¿Se ve? Es que no veo la presentación ahora.
Ahora sí.
Vale. Ahí, ¿clicas tú o clico yo?
Ya, vamos a ver si te puedo subir el control.
Vale. Lo siento, ¿eh? El otro día hicimos la prueba y se veía bien.
Sí, son problemas técnicos que
Sí.
pasan.
Sí, se veía bien.
¿Quién?
¿Quién? ¿Yo?
¿Quieres el control, Marta, para ti?
Sí. Pues no me va, ¿eh?
¿No? Bueno, pues nada, vamos a...
Me tendrás que clicar tú, lo siento. Pues bueno.
No hay problema.
La primera diapositiva, pues bueno, la Directiva de Generadores de Aerosoles pues, fue modificada el año 2008 y transpuesta en España por el Real Decreto del año 2009 y en el anexo B establecía unas nuevas obligaciones a la persona responsable de la puesta en el mercado de la comercialización que debería analizar los peligros para identificar aquellos que sean de aplicación a sus productos y dice que cuando procedan este análisis incluirá un examen de los riesgos resultantes de la inhalación de la pulverización emitida por el generador de aerosol en condiciones normales o razonablemente previsibles de uso, teniendo en cuenta que pues, el tamaño de partícula y también las propiedades físicas y químicas de los contenidos. Y entonces deberá diseñarlo, fabricarlo y someterlo a prueba y, en su caso, redactar declaraciones especiales relativas a su uso. Y de aquí salieron las dudas de cuándo procederá a realizar este análisis y cómo se debe realizar, porque no se especifica absolutamente nada en la normativa. Si pasas, por favor. Entonces, en el año 2012-2013, pues se creó un comité de seguridad y salud medio ambiente de la FEA para realizar esta guía. Los integrantes fue un grupo de trabajo multidisciplinar, unos 10 colaboradores de Inglaterra, de Italia, Alemania, Francia, Estados Unidos y de España, de la Asociación Española de Aerosoles, con varios perfiles profesionales de BAMA, toxicólogos del sector cosméticos, de fragancias y de pinturas. Y esta guía también quiere servir para dar soporte al sector cosmético. Si pasas. Entonces, ¿cuáles son las vías de entrada de los contaminantes en el cuerpo humano? Pues la vía digestiva, la dérmica, la parenteral y la inhalatoria. En nuestro caso, lo que nos interesa pues, es la inhalatoria. El alcance de la guía, ¿cuál fue? Pues bueno, evaluar los riesgos de inhalación de los productos en aerosol. No se consideran los contaminantes ambientales como el tráfico en las industrias. Los grupos de trabajos afectados son tanto trabajadores, usuarios profesionales y consumidores finales. Los tipos de efectos agudos y crónicos, locales y sistémicos. ¿Y para qué empresas? Pues para pymes, formuladores y comercializadores que no tienen acceso directo a expertos en toxicología. ¿Y este estudio a qué productos se debe realizar? Pues a todos los productos, tanto nuevos como los que tenemos de hace años en el mercado. Siguiente. Entonces, ¿cuál es importante el tema de posición de las partículas de gotas en las vías respiratorias? Pues en función de su tamaño. Tenemos la fracción inhalable, que es la fracción de más de 30 micrómetros, que se deposita en la parte superior, en la boca y en la nariz. La fracción torácica de 10 a 30 micrómetros, que se deposita en la tráquea y en los bronquios. Y la fracción más fina, la respirable, inferior a 10 micrómetros, que es la que se deposita en la fracción alveolar. Siguiente. Entonces, ¿qué es importante? Pues la distribución del tamaño de partícula, que determina pues, la dosis inhalada y la respirada. ¿Y de qué depende? Pues de la composición de nuestra fórmula, de la composición individual de cada ingrediente, y también es importante, que ya se ha comentado, el embalaje, el tipo de propelente, el tamaño de la lata, la válvula, el difusor que utilicemos, y cualquier cambio en estos parámetros puede afectar a la distribución del tamaño de partícula. Siguiente. Entonces, en la guía se establecieron 4 pasos básicos. El primer paso, el step 1, es la recopilación de datos de todos los ingredientes de nuestra fórmula. ¿A través de qué? Pues de fichas de seguridad de todas las materias primas, restricciones, publicaciones toxicológicas. El paso 2, evaluar este riesgo, identificando y caracterizando y saber nuestra concentración en el spray. El paso 3, pues evaluar la exposición con modelos teóricos o medidas reales, y el paso 4, pues caracterizar este riesgo. Siguiente. Una vez hemos recopilado toda la información, en la evaluación del riesgo tenemos que identificarlo. Se revisan todos los datos disponibles para identificar los ingredientes que pueden suponer algún riesgo. La inhalación no es solo una parte de la exposición, también puede haber la dermal y la oral, pero esta guía se centra en la inhalación. ¿Vale? Debemos centrarnos no solo en las fichas de datos de seguridad, es la información de partida básica, pero también se deben consultar otros estudios de seguridad de proveedores, artículos publicados, evaluaciones de instituciones reguladas, y en función de la calidad y la credibilidad de esta evaluación dependerán de toda la información usada desde el principio de nuestro proceso. Siguiente. Debemos caracterizar el riesgo, determinar el nivel de exposición al cual los humanos no se deben exponer. Los conceptos básicos son el Derived No Effect Level, establecido por fabricantes importadores y revisado por la ECA, la concentración letal, y el NOAE, que es el No Observed Adverse Effect Concentration, para dosis repetidas. Se debe considerar si habrá algún riesgo si el contenido total del envase es vaciado. Si esta evaluación indica que el ingrediente no presenta ningún riesgo de toxicidad por inhalación, finaliza la evaluación y se pasa al paso 4 de caracterización. Pero bueno, la ausencia de información tampoco es una evidencia que no haya ningún riesgo, porque pueden haber, como hemos dicho, otros temas de irritación o sensibilizantes. Si la evaluación indica que el ingrediente sí que presenta algún riesgo por inhalación, se debe pasar al paso 3 de evaluar la exposición. Siguiente. ¿Cómo se evalúa la exposición? Pues intentamos modelar un uso real del spray. El modelo de exposición está afectado por la combinación de varios elementos. El tanto por ciento del ingrediente en nuestra formulación, cuál es la población expuesta, si son trabajadores, usuarios profesionales o consumidores finales, porque el tiempo de uso no es el mismo, cuál es la frecuencia y la duración de la exposición, si es una sola exposición o continua durante 8 horas, y una caracterización del spray. Por ejemplo, la exposición a partículas a gotas es negligible, casi negligible, para productos en espuma o gel si comparamos con un spray, o si la aplicación se hace hacia el usuario o lejos del usuario. Y la caracterización del spray no es lo mismo que conocer la distribución del tamaño de partícula, que es un dato muy útil, pero es más caro de obtener porque son ya medidas analíticas, pero es muy útil saberlo. Existen varios modelos cuantitativos para evaluar esta exposición, varían en función de su complejidad y objetivos. Y el usuario debe entender las fronteras para su uso para un producto en aerosol. Los principales modelos teóricos es el de Bama-FEA de una caja, el Conexpo, que es más complicado, el de 2 cajas y de dinámica de fluidos, que ya es mucho más complicado. O, como hemos dicho, o si no, medidas analíticas reales con bombas que absorben el aire que respiramos. El modelo de una caja pues, considera la conservación de la masa y la homogeneidad de la concentración en toda la habitación, no recomendable para casos donde exista un campo cercano y otro más lejano de exposición o en condiciones de poca mezcla. Tenemos una serie de inputs que debemos conocer para obtener los outputs y el resultado final. ¿Qué debemos saber? Pues el volumen de la habitación, el ratio de ventilación, el tanto por ciento de peso de nuestro ingrediente, la duración de esta descarga y los gramos por segundo descargados. ¿Qué obtenemos de outputs? Pues la concentración inicial de nuestro spray a los 15 minutos, 4 horas, 8 horas, 16 horas o 24 horas. ¿Y en qué recomendaciones de uso se recomienda este modelo? Pues los productos que se rocían directamente hacia el aire o en una superficie horizontal. Siguiente. La fórmula básica para calcular la concentración es una exponencial teniendo en cuenta la concentración inicial y donde n es el ratio de ventilación de la habitación donde nos encontramos, que en el tiempo se va diluyendo. El modelo de 2 cajas ya es un poco más complicado. La caja 1 es donde se encuentra la fuente de emisión, que asumimos una mezcla perfecta, y la caja 2 es el resto de la casa, donde se produce la dispersión. La exposición depende de qué, pues de la cantidad de tiempo que pasamos en cada habitación, y también se puede considerar, por ejemplo, la caja 1 como la zona de respiración alrededor de la persona y la caja 2 como el resto de la habitación. ¿Qué inputs debemos tener? Pues como inputs necesitamos más información. El volumen de la habitación, los gramos por segundo descargados, la duración de esta descarga, los usos al día que hacemos, el aire de la habitación intercambiado con el exterior, el tiempo de permanencia en la habitación por día, el aire de la habitación intercambiando entre la habitación y el resto de la casa, el aire de la habitación intercambiando entre el exterior y el resto de la casa, el tiempo de permanencia en el resto de la casa y el ratio de ventilación, los litros por minuto. ¿Qué outputs tenemos? Pues en la zona 1 la concentración máxima, en la zona 2 también la concentración máxima. El ratio, y también obtenemos el ratio de exposición máxima, la exposición total acumulativa y la exposición total por el peso corporal. ¿Y en qué productos se recomienda? Pues los productos rociados hacia el aire, los productos rociados hacia el cuerpo o los productos rociados en la superficie con retorno. En la guía que se realizó hay unas tablas también que se caracterizan los ratios y los tiempos de descargas típicos de diferentes productos en aerosol, donde hay las lacas para el cabello, las pinturas, el limpiador de hornos, y sirve, pues bueno, como es una guía, pues para tener una guía de qué ratios utilizar. Siguiente. Otra manera de obtener estos resultados, pues medidas analíticas reales, esto sería lo ideal. Una simulación de la zona de exposición real a través de una bomba que lo que hace es absorber el aire de la zona de respiración del maniquí y lo analiza en un espectrómetro de tamaño de partículas. Pero estos ya son datos analíticos que ya son más caros de obtener, los otros son teóricos. Siguiente. El paso 4 es que debemos caracterizar el riesgo. ¿Qué haremos? Pues bueno, se calcula el ratio de caracterización de riesgo para los usos cubiertos por el REACH. ¿Qué relación hay? Pues la exposición, lo que hemos obtenido, dividido por el Derived No Effect Level. Si es inferior a 1, pues el ingrediente es seguro a la concentración que estamos evaluando. Si es superior a 1, pues el ingrediente no es seguro al uso. Y en este caso sí que sería interesante analizar la distribución del tamaño de partícula. ¿Qué debe hacer el formulador comercializador? Pues tiene varias opciones. O modificar el aerosol. Para algunos casos, cambiando la válvula o la presión del propelente, se puede reducir la fracción respirable. Modificar las instrucciones de uso, pues poner en la etiqueta usar equipos de protección individual o indicar que solo se puede utilizar en áreas bien ventiladas, o reformular, sustituir o reducir este ingrediente en cuestión que nos da algún problema por inhalación. Para los productos cosméticos no se calcula el mismo indicador, se calcula el Margin of Safety, que es la relación con el Systemic Exposure Dose y el No Observed Adverse Effect Level. Siguiente. Esto es un ejemplo que se publicó en el Toxicology Letters el año 2014 sobre un ejemplo para que veáis, bueno, los cálculos teóricos, por ejemplo, de un ambientador. Tenemos un ingrediente A en concentración al 0,5%, el tiempo de descarga típico que se obtiene de estas tablas que hemos dicho es de 5 segundos, el ratio de descarga 1,5 gramos segundos, la habitación típica se considera un cuarto de baño de unos 10 metros cúbicos. Se considera un adulto con una respiración de 13 litros por minuto, con baja actividad y un peso de 65 kilos. Si la persona está en esta habitación durante 30 minutos, pues ¿cuál será la exposición a este ingrediente? Pues bueno, tenemos el 1,5 gramos por los 5 segundos, 7,5 gramos. La concentración es al 0,5, pues 37,5 miligramos. Asumimos una distribución homogénea en todos los 10 metros cúbicos y se asume que no hay ventilación. La respiración es de los 13 litros que hemos dicho por minutos y por una duración de 30 minutos en la habitación, pues obtenemos 1,46 miligramos por los 65 kilos de la persona, 0,0225 miligramos por kilo. Siguiente. La FEA tiene una tabla Excel para calcular estos valores y se considera que es más realista una renovación de 2 veces horas. Obtenemos una concentración de 2,4 miligramos metros cúbicos, que es el modelo de la BAMA, de una caja, que es este Excel, donde se introducen los inputs y nos calcula ya la diferente concentración a lo largo de las horas. Esta aproximación es más realista que el cálculo teórico, pero es más conservador, ya que otra información relevante, como por ejemplo la distribución del tamaño de partículas, no se ha tenido en cuenta. Y ya está. Muchas gracias por vuestra atención. Si tenéis alguna pregunta, duda. La guía es bastante genérica, ¿eh?
Muchas gracias, Marta. Sí que tenemos alguna pregunta. Supongo que también necesitamos asumir un poco toda la información y te paso un poco las preguntas que nos han llegado hasta ahora. Si alguien tuviera alguna, pues ya te la haríamos llegar después. Has estado mencionando el adulto y una de las preguntas que nos habían pasado era ¿cómo saber la exposición inhalatoria de un niño o un bebé ante el uso de un spray? No sé si eso está contemplado en la guía.
En la guía hay estas tablas de respiración y de kilos de personas. Claro, del niño se tendría que tener en cuenta el kilo medio del niño y el ratio de respiración, que es diferente que un adulto. En la guía ya hay tablas. También hay tablas de metros cuadrados de habitaciones típicas, de respiraciones de personas. Vale.
Y bueno, para no cogerte ya demasiado más tiempo, a no ser que aparezca alguna pregunta más, has mencionado muy interesante el tema de que en caso de que la RCR fuera mayor que 1, varias opciones, ¿no? Entre ellas el indicar que se debería utilizar el producto en áreas bien ventiladas. Y has hablado de la modificación de la válvula que podría ayudar a modificar el
tamaño de partícula.
Sí. A nivel práctico, realmente, por lo que has dicho, se entiende que se puede realmente actuar sobre este tamaño, ¿no? Luego veremos también la presentación sobre tamaños de partícula, pero realmente es algo que se puede conseguir, se puede con pequeñas modificaciones o realmente son modificaciones drásticas.
No soy una experta en válvulas, yo, pero sí que sé que depende del tipo de válvula, pues tú tienes un flujo de salida diferente. Por ejemplo, yo soy del sector graffiti, en función de nuestras válvulas, pues pueden pintar de una forma o de otra, o sea que realmente sí que puede influir en el tamaño de partícula, pero no soy una súper experta en válvulas, yo.
Vale, bueno, muchísimas gracias. Nos has hecho una exposición muy completa sobre el tema de la evaluación de la seguridad en la inhalación, que es algo que bueno, siempre se agradece porque es un tema como muy nicho, pero bueno, cada vez más importante y esta regulación nos lo está trayendo a muchas áreas de nuestra industria.
Muy bien.
Pues muchas gracias y muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy.
De nada, muchas gracias. Adiós.
Adiós. Franck Flecheux?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Que es, pues bueno, tiene una carrera dentro de la industria del embalaje de más de 30 años, también en la industria de los aerosoles. So you are an expert in aerosol.
Yes.
From your long experience.
Yes.
You have a big experience in packaging in general, And also you are a recognized analyzer and advisor for companies in the sector of aerosol regarding complex problems of quality and I don't know the translation for étanchéité.
For watertight or sealing.
Okay, sealing. Y corrosión, corrosion and compatibility. Y es un independent expert also for customers, incidents and fournisseurs. I'm sorry.
Yes, suppliers.
Okay, thank you very much. I've learned some French. So now it's on you. Sorry, and thank you for your understanding.
No issue. So hello everybody. I am very pleased today to show you what we are used to do in terms of particle size measurement. I am representing the l'ERM laboratory. It's a French laboratory. So I will present you a short history of the laboratory, the activities. Then we will move to particle size measurement and with a demo. So the LRM exists since 1961, so it is 60 years. 60 years this year, and it is an independent research laboratory legally set up as a French association of general interest. The LRM aim is to offer an independent service of expertise to the packaging industry, permanently to metal packaging, but we are used to make also many tests on different materials like plastic, for example. So l'ERM is one of the few laboratories certified by the French Ministry of Ecological Transition and Solidarity, former French Ministry Transport, to control and validate packaging intended for the dangerous goods. That certification was confirmed in 2017 by a decree. It's an official decree, and we are an official laboratory for that. That decree mandates l'ERM to issue certificate of dangerous good transport for each type of metal packaging up to 400 liters. Aerosol are in this. The l'ERM issues certificates to company from northern UK to Madagascar and from US to India. I have to say, dangerous good activity is north to south, northern UK to Madagascar, but for the aerosol itself, we have plenty of contacts worldwide from the US up to India. This is our main customers. So we have a lot of multinational working with us, some consulting company working on certification for biocide packaging, for example. But we are also working with the people making the packaging themselves. So the l'ERM is certified ISO 9001 issue 2015. And we are a center of expertise with regards to drop test, pressure test, corrosivity test, flammability test, stability test, means storage test, aerosol packaging, and particle size measurement on spray. So we are also member of various French technical and regulatory committees via AFNOR, SEN, TC261, SC4 and ISO TC52, but also at the European level via Metal Packaging Europe and European Industrial Packaging Association, and I am often sharing some time at the European Federation of the Aerosol. So the particle size measurement go to the main matter of the presentation and details how it works. So this is the device. So you have the picture of the machine. I will make a demo at the end of the presentation, and you will see the machine. We will simulate a measurement, because to make a measurement is not exactly what I will show you, but you will see how we are doing, and where we are doing with what equipment exactly. So the principle is to it's a samples dispersed in an adequate concentration in a suitable liquid or gas is passing through a beam of monochromatic light source, usually a laser. The light scattered by the particle at various angles is measured by multi-element detectors, and numerical value relating to the scattering pattern are recorded for subsequent analysis. It means there is a software behind. These numerical scattering values are then transformed using an appropriate optical model and mathematical procedure to yield the proportion of the total volume of the particles to a discrete number of size clays, forming a volumetric particle size description, PSD. The laser diffraction technique for the determination of the PSD is based on the phenomenon that particles scatter light in all directions with an intensity pattern that is dependent of the particle size. The figure 1 illustrates this dependency in the scattering pattern for two sizes of spherical particles, in addition to particle size, particle shape, and optical property of a particulate material influence the scattering pattern. So sorry for the long explanation, but this is not a basic measurement device, and it is quite complex to explain. So this is the figure 1 to explain you have on the part 7 on the part 7 you have the laser the concentration, then you have the scattering beam that you can see here. Here on one you have the detectors. There is plenty of detectors to see what happened about the light. So and here you have the spray in between, and you have the optical device. In 3D, this is how it looks. So you have the black dots are the spray passing through the laser, and then you have a target looking like a target, and this is the sensors where you recover the laser after passing through the particles. The measurement results, as my former colleagues present, so it's a diagram like that, where you have the results, and you have the particle size distribution results, and you can recover different type of results as you have the list on the right hand side. You have the diameter of the particles, the median diameter, you have the mean diameter, and all of those values are, let's say, standard and available on the device software. So there is a standard about the particle size measurement. The main documents are what I list here. It is the ISO 13320. There is the FEA guide on particle size measurement from aerosol product. You have to know that a measurement with the granulometer is not a measurement, let's say, easy to handle, and it is not. I am used to say a granulometer is not a caliper. A caliper, you take your hand, you put the measurement device in your hand, and you have a result. With a granulometer, it's not the same. You have to be able to manage the setting of the machine, and you have to be able to manage the results. So this is something that you have to manage it well, because if you are not able to manage it well, you lose the control of the results, and that's not an option. The MT187 is more for US. So The presentation is also talking about the spray pattern and the clogging test, because this is also a test that we are used to offer to our customers looking to make further tests after the particle size measurement. They are asking us to measure, to give results about how the shape of the spray pattern is, and to test the clogging. It means if it's an aerosol, we press and we see if there is no clogging, and if it's a trigger, we are pumping, or let's say a pump as well, we are pumping in order to see if there is if it works well, and if there is no clogging then. So the spray pattern is we are spraying the product on a special paper at a defined distance, and we are making a calculation in order to define the spray angle. When we are making the spray pattern, we are doing as we are doing on the granulometer measurement on three samples. We are doing as well on 3 samples the spray pattern. And this is the document to confirm that we are an official laboratory to make under ISO certification. So now I will do my best to show you the demo. The machine is ready. My colleague is waiting us to show what is used to do. I hope everything will work well, but I am doing as simplest as that, moving my laptop to the test room. So we have a room. In this room, we are working in the dark. So we are used to, Jean-Baptiste, you can come. So we are used to close the door and to be in the dark. So we are in the dark. So it's not fun for the demo. Sorry for that. So I am opening the light. So you can see this is a measurement device. Sorry, I am not a very good cameraman. So the measurement device is there. The measurement device is ready, and the measurement device have to be warm up. So we have to start up before to make the test in order to have a stabilized laser beam. And you see the, sorry. So it's just an example, but you see the cans at the right position. The position is the first thing to be well controlled, the distance from the laser beam and the height. And then we are making it, we are able to, sorry. So we have, of course, to manage some operation in order to calibrate the laser beam and the sensor before to make any measurement. And then, so we have the laptop here. And so Jean-Baptiste will simulate the measurement. So we are doing in the dark. I will try to show you. So you see the red spot. It's the spray that we have passing through the laser beam. So you can stop, Jean-Baptiste. Of course, then we are doing that 10 push, and we are then we are computing the results, and this is sorry, no, but I have to light up the room. I think it will be better. I hope. So this is a typical result you have, and what we are able to give. So this, you see the basic. You see the basic of the how to make a particle size measurement. All of that is managed to be. So we are doing 3 times each time, and this is a measurement device. So this is the presentation end. I hope you see what I tried to show you. So
thank you very much, Franck.
Did you see something?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your effort.
It's a little bit a theory, and but it's a very so you have to know that it's a state-of-the-art measurement device with a lot of science behind, and you have to have people able to manage it, because it is not easy to do, but the results are able to give you the particle size measurement, and especially the particle size limit below 10 microns. This is typically for that machine.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think it's nice you make this effort for us to see at least how is the machine and to understand a little bit better. So okay. If you are fine, we can start with the questions. Yes? Or
yes.
The Croda team and also regarding regulatory, and also for the measurement for Franck. So let's start. Well, actually, there was a question before. There were some questions that were addressed before, and I think some are also repeated with some of the questions we've been having during the event. And others maybe now are already answered. For example, there is one question about how it was going to affect dental pastes. And I think that unless you need to add something, as far as it knows, an inhalation product is not going to be affected. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we go more to the questions on how it affects to, we have questions on how it affects to formulations, to ingredients also, and to measurements. There is one question regarding about pearl pigments and borosilicates coated with titanium dioxide, or how affects the classification of the pigments, pearl pigments, having a substrate, again, mica, borosilicate, or alumina, which has a cover on titanium dioxide.
Yeah, so I can take that one. So any restrictions on pearlescent pigments will depend on the classification of the pearlescent pigment as supplied. So if the pearlescent pigment is not classified as a carcinogen, then there are no restrictions and you can use it as we do today. However, if the pearlescent pigment is classified as a carcinogen, then you need to move to the next stage of assessment and say, is the titanium dioxide used? Is it pigmentary? Is it anatase? Is it surface treated, etc.? So the issue that pearlescent pigments face is that quite a few of the pearlescent pigments have rutile titanium dioxide, which is not included in Annex 3 or not in the draft legislation at the moment. So what's going to be key is asking your suppliers, are my products classified or not classified? And that's going to be really important.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. So at the end, we need any supplier to give an answer to the raw materials.
Yes.
Okay, so also regarding to the question on raw materials, there is a question specifically with the kind of pigmentary classification. Let me make it clear. Sorry. Okay, I have another one while I look for this one, which was what's gonna be the impact for this classification in cosmetic formulations. I think you already answered some of the questions, but there are specific questions for makeup. How is makeup going to be affected by this classification, for example?
Yeah, so again, it will depend on the type of formulation at the end of the day that you have. So any powders will face powders, as we've said, are potentially impacted, but other liquid formulations would fall under the other products, for example, where the restriction is that they shouldn't be able to be inhaled by the consumer. So this is where it comes down to the risk assessment being really, really important. You know, loose powders will be restricted to 20%, but other makeup, less of a restriction. So lip glosses, liquid eyeshadows, there would be no restriction there.
So again, we have questions on that because there is a lot of issues with that. Saying regarding makeup, what implications are for compact powders? I understand this is what you just mentioned now, but also what should one take into account when formulating compact powders?
So this is where it's a tricky one at the minute, because the proposal was that the face powder entry was for loose powder specifically. So what is currently happening is lots of data is being generated on exposure to compact powders to see if the exposure is different to loose powders. So that comes down to risk assessment and exposure. Again, it's not clear. We'll have to wait until the final legislation is out, I'm afraid.
Okay. So we know that it's very difficult for you to be answering some of the questions, so we are very grateful because we know it's open. But
yeah.
Yes, we have so many questions because of these categories that are like in the air. The specific question about the grade of titanium dioxide was understanding exactly how to check if the titanium dioxide used as UV filter is pigmentary or which classification it applies, because you mentioned that rutile is out of classification, so no possibility to use it. Only in inhalation products?
Yeah, only in face powders and hair products that are aerosolized. So only those two things. In any other products, so in any sunscreens, any creams, any face creams, anything like that, the restriction is, there's no restriction on it being pigmentary, surface treated or anatase. It's just that it can't be used in an application where it can be inhaled, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Let me see if it's clear. For rutile, it's only possible to use it in face powders and hair applications under.
No. So for face powders and for hair products in aerosolized form, the TiO2 used must be pigmentary, anatase and surface treated. For all other products, there's no restriction on what your TiO2 looks like. For sunscreens, you would then have to move to your Annex 6 and look at any Annex 6 restrictions. So, for example, for nano TiO2, there's already specific coatings you can use. It must be anatase, less than 5% rutile. All those restrictions then apply to your UV filter. But still, you could not use it because the thing is that when it comes to inhalation, it was already forbidden for nano. Yes. And now the change is that also for some products, there would be a restriction. Yep. So for non-nano TiO2, that will be as a UV filter. It will be restricted to applications where it can't be inhaled by the consumer, exactly the same as the non-nano. So no possibility to make sunscreen products with titanium dioxide which are sprayed. No, this is where your risk assessment would come in, and where Franck's job comes in terms of demonstrating that the consumer cannot inhale the TiO2, and that's where it gets really difficult. Okay, so we have again a question from the person that asked the first one. They really want to know, in a face powder product, for example, how can we check for that titanium dioxide, which is the grade UV filter or pigmentary? How can we really make sure that we are compliant with the restriction for a face product? Yes. Yeah, your supplier will be able to tell you exactly what their product is and help you with that, with all the characterization that you'd need. So the question to the supplier would be, how am I going to be compliant with titanium dioxide restrictions for this application? Yeah, so you could ask if it complies with Annex 3 of the cosmetic regulations for titanium dioxide. And they should be able to give you that information. I think it's going to be difficult at the beginning. Yes. But it's down to suppliers, and you know, I know Helene's working really hard, and she might have more to add on making sure that the communication that we as suppliers give to customers is enough to be able to make that assessment. So it gives you all the information that you need as formulators to be able to answer, to determine whether or not, you know, you can continue to use the TiO2. Okay. We have a question for Franck, so that we can change a little bit. We had a very specific question. Shall the aerodynamic particle size be measured by a Copley kit for inhalers, as described in the Pharmacopoeia Europea, the European Pharmacopoeia? Franck, can you hear me?
Yes, it's better like that.
Okay.
So Copley device is a measurement device designed specially for MDI. MDI, it's medical device inhalator, and is looking to measure the very thin particles, means particles with a dimension below 10 microns. And this device is not used to measure something else. So it's not the device to measure the particle size on a spray, for example, on cosmetics, on the cosmetic spray, as I have to say.
Okay, thank you. So again, regarding makeup, there was one question: which kind of makeup products would be affected by the situation of titanium dioxide? You've been mentioning about face powders, but what happens with sprays?
So the only sprays that are specifically mentioned are the aerosolized hair products. For all other sprays, you would need to do a risk assessment to make sure that your end product cannot be inhaled by the consumer. So it's very formulation dependent, very much dependent on the packaging that's used for that formulation.
But I guess now risk assessment evaluator must be, I know we have some of them here connected, must be thinking, how am I going to take that into account? I think it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've been doing for nano-based TiO2 for a long time. So yeah, it does require extra thought and extra time as part of the risk assessment. It's not as straightforward.
Also, we had a question regarding what happens when we have a makeup product which is in an emulsion, solid makeup which is more in a kind of dispersion emulsion.
So if it's in a dispersion or emulsion, it suggests that there should be no inhalation exposure from use. So again, it comes down to how you package that and if there's any inhalable particles that come off that product. So for example, if it's an emulsion used in if it was more used in a cream, you know, there would be no inhalation exposure. If you think like a soap bar, you know, and you use it under the water, there's no inhalation exposure from that kind of solid bar. So again, you have to think about your end formulation and then how the consumer is going to use it and if they can then be exposed to and if they can inhale it during use. Okay,
so again, the safety evaluator. We had some questions on that now that they just appeared. Also, there is a question regarding transition. Do you know if there will be any transitionary time to continue manufacturing or selling products already for hair aerosols, the one that specifically we know that they are going to be restricted?
Yeah. The current draft says that the Annex 3 restrictions enter into force on the 1st of October 2021. It does not mention any transition period for anything that's already on the market. That's something we'll have to wait and see what is in the final legislation. But currently the draft states 1st of October 2021.
But actually, if it's going to be published in the second quarter, it's going to be really hard time for adapting.
The timescales are so tight, so tight. It's unreal.
Yeah, that's why we really wanted to make this event soon, so that people is aware.
Yeah.
Another question for Franck. Is there a standard method to measure the aerodynamic diameter of particles?
The method is to use the device I show you, because it's not something that you can measure with a microscope or with another option, and there is a few measurement devices to do that. One of them is Malvern Spraytech, as we have, and there is another brand, I don't remember the name, but there is not so many. There is La Vision as well, a company offering an option to measure the spray particles.
Okay, thank you. We have more questions regarding risk assessment. They say then the risk assessment in phase UV products is mandatory when it contains titanium dioxide UV filter.
So that will again depend on the type of formulation. So if you have a sun cream formulation, then there's, you know, it then depends on the packaging that you're putting in. So if you're putting it in the spray packaging, then you would have to do a risk assessment and look at, you know, the size of the particles created by the actuator. That would have to be part of the risk assessment. If it was not in a spray bottle and it was just in a squeezy sun cream bottle or a face product with a UV filter that's in a normal tube like this one, then there would be no need to do any inhalation you may have to reference that inhalation is not a risk and why, but there would not be a need to take it to another level and say, and get some data on particle size, etc.
So, like summarizing, we have some product that's gonna be limited. We have some products that will need evaluation. If there is any possibility of inhalation, then we have to make a special risk assessment and measurement of particles and all these other things we learn. And that we have to wait for the final draft, but we have to start getting ready. So what would you recommend us? Also, Frank, what would you recommend to someone? Also, regarding the measurement, we discussed before with Marta, that also is possible to adjust the particle size with the packaging. You are an expert in packaging, so what would you recommend?
I recommend not to be afraid. I recommend to make the risk assessment looking to the detail and to be able to guarantee that your product is not dispensing particle size below 10 microns. We have measurement, no, the LRM have the measurement device, but there is also other company to make those measurements, and it's quite well known to make those measurements. The benefits of to have a dispensing system like aerosol generator is because it's very convenient to apply the filter on your skin by an aerosol, and on top of that, I follow my colleagues to present the point that, of course, if the product is in liquid or in a tube or in other packaging, if there is no spray outside, I don't see a reason to have a risk, but I leave them to explain that. I know we are making measurement on sun care product today, and the sun care product will remain on the market after this point. I don't know what is your point of view about that, but it's manageable by propellant, it's manageable by the valve, it's manageable by the spray dispenser. So there is leverages to adjust it. Of course, it takes time. It requests time to make such a development if there is an issue, and to check if it works, if it's compliant or not. Just make a particle size measurement and you will know.
I don't know if you want to add something else. I think it's a good message to take to home. Like, don't be afraid. There are solutions. I think this is the best message we can have. Would you like to add anything else?
If I can add, sorry, Helen, you first. No,
okay.
Of course.
Yeah, I would echo that. Yeah, for the vast majority of formulations containing titanium dioxide, there is no impact. You know, especially the area I work in, sunscreens. Most sunscreens aren't in an inhalable format, so most formulations will not be affected. But if your formulations are affected, don't panic. Come and speak to your supplier, speak to Croda if we're your supplier, and yeah, work through a risk assessment and determine the inhalation risk of your loose powder or your spray, your aerosol spray, and look at the formulation as a whole. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, just if I can say something just to finish. Just I wanted to say that, okay, because there is a big trend in clean sun care, in green sun care, so people want to use the mineral sunscreen. So as also Frank said, so don't be afraid of using titanium dioxide in the different formats, as if it's in a sprayable format. So just do this risk assessment and just continue using titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, because they are the safest sunscreens that we have in our ingredients for using in sun care.
Okay, thank you very much to everybody then. It seems that we don't have more questions. I suppose we all have a lot of questions on our head of how to go on in our daily work, but you gave us good issues. So thank you very much to everybody, and now I switch to Spanish to say goodbye to our participants. Muchas gracias a todos, os pedimos disculpas por el incidente que hemos tenido. Por suerte muchos os habéis podido volver a incorporar. Esperamos que haya sido del interés de todos y que hayamos podido encontrar respuestas a las preguntas, y bueno, aún así pues será un tema que iremos debatiendo durante el resto del año, por supuesto. A la que aparezca pues la publicación del draft o más detalles, estaremos siguiéndolo desde la SEC muy de cerca. Tenemos intención este año pues de hacer seminarios muy rápidos a partir de la publicación de temas regulatorios que sabemos que son de gran preocupación. Por ejemplo, ahora estamos preparando uno para microplásticos. Y como habréis visto, se acaba de anunciar que precisamente hablando de protección solar vamos a trabajar pues unas píldoras dentro de un formato de seminario, un webinar científico-técnico que justo se acaba de anunciar. Así que estamos aquí todos a vuestra disposición para seguir trabajando y mantenernos todos informados de la evolución del tema, y este será uno de ellos que continuaremos siguiendo. Muchísimas gracias a todos y esperamos seguirnos viendo online y esperamos que pronto nos podamos ver en físico. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much to all the participants, and very much for being here part of that. Without the speakers, we would not be able to prepare that, and we needed very specialized ones. So thank you very much for attending today and giving us so good messages.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Gracias.
Bye.
Thank you, Mary.